trying to get a sample of daily street sound, but missing the best of it as usual. This is normal street noise coming into the house much louder. Turning it down now, as don't forget these entities that are around in human form. I mean, they're essentially like, that was really loud, but the minute that I pressed the record knob on the mobile, it went silent. Just as I was upstairs in bed and I had some stuff stuck in my ears, which doesn't mask all the sound but does make it so you can't hear sounds directly. Plane going over, military plane going over. But I'm just going to show, well, I can't show it because basically they play with you. They play with you and they're just getting energy. Patrol car. Okay. What happened there? I don't know what happened there. The screen went blank there for a second when I went outside to show the patrol car. But basically they have control of everything. But see, that was to stop me from making that point. But when I got up, I'm actually surrounded by noise here, even though it doesn't look like it. But I'll just explain it and make myself look like someone who's paranoid, stupid, and exaggerating normal sounds. Because I'm exhausted, you see, because basically I was upstairs in bed, asleep. Can you hear music playing? I could go outside, but I'd have to go out and show you. See, someone next door, the new, very, how shall we say, very vocal new tenants next door. They're vocal in the sense that from the minute they moved in, very vocal. In other words, although I haven't actually seen or met them, they're loud, like laughing really loud, always out the front, standing out the front of the house when there's no reason to, the minute you open the door, this sort of thing. But what I'm trying to say is that, and laughing really loud, talking really loud, shouting, in fact shouting in an aggressive manner, in staged, scripted dialogues to elicit attention, which means that they are most likely, of course, the narcissistic, the malignant narcissistic kind of nature. That's at a very basic personal human psychological level. I personally see these as different species altogether, even though they are all in human form. Artificial intelligence may look human and may even have a cloned human body, but it is not a human being in the traditional sense of what a normal person would see or think about a normal human being. They merely imitate that, but they don't experience or feel it, just as I'm told a psychopath or a malignant, narcissistic, paranoid, controlling person doesn't either. But this is really, like I say, what I call, or what I think is really part of the deception or part of the misconception of the actual reality, that it's very easy to tell different animal species, but it's very hard to tell different animals or different species if they come in the same body. because, plane is going over, right over the roof as I speak. But I'm just going to try to explain it, but I'm getting exhausted because I was going to sit down and have a drink before I made this video. In fact, I was upstairs asleep, and I got woken up, even though I had stuff in my ears, by this astronomical noise. I still don't know what it was, but it drew me to get up, even though it's time for me to get up. But because I was basically up doing what you call the night shift, in other words, I was up all night, I was sleeping half the day, or trying to, because you have to get your energy back after depletion when you're up. Because can you hear this love songs being played next door? I say love songs because I'm going to emphasize it. Yeah, I'm going to say, see, that's playing that song, that they will do anything for love. Now, the only reason I'm emphasising this is because they've only started playing that music next door today, and last night there was a person from next door very late at night, like 2 o'clock in the morning, out in the back, singing a love song themselves really loud. And the only reason and this is a song that I played 2 days ago. Listen, it's the Cher song called Turn Back Time. I played it a couple of times. I can't show that. Oh, I can't get the door. Okay, so can you hear that is being played really loud? If I could turn back time, which is exactly the song that I played 2-3 days ago. In fact, I was going to record it on a video, but the only reason I was playing, and I knew this would be emphasised to me by the androids around, I knew it would be emphasised by the androids around because I played it really loud, because I was trying to mask the mechanical work noise that was going on around me. It was the middle of the day and I came back. The same song, but either way, that is not relevant. But what I'm trying to show here is that, as has been told to me, I'm going to try to close that out. I don't mind the music being played, actually, because it's the same music that I play, which is my point that I'm trying to make, is that my point that I am trying to make is simply that, I'm finding it hard to concentrate, that's the only thing. But you see, and I'm stressed and I'm exhausted and I'm very hot. Now, I must calm down here, because I was woken up by this astronomical loud noise, so I was forced to get up maybe an hour before I intended. Okay, but when I come down, of course, I thought I shall record it because it was so loud with stuff in my ears that the mobile would have shown that it is unacceptable to have noise like that coming into someone's house. Like, I wasn't even out in the street, so that would be like having a jackhammer or something inside your house. But of course, the minute I come down and grab for the mobile to press it, it stopped, and I don't even know where it came from. But either way, because, you know, they know what you're doing, because they can see through my eyes with the implants that are in there. But even if that wasn't the case, which it is though, because I can see the implants, they're actually visible on the outside. They're like little peculiar shaped lights, but to the naked eye, unless you look closely, they just look like light reflection. And that's what the androids would tell you if you ask them about it, because they deny everything. And they don't care anyway. They don't care what's happening to anyone but themselves, as we're told. And this is also the narcissistic, the malignant narcissistic, psychopathic, controlling, paranoid, very self-serving, self-centered personality type. It's totally a survival machine being, in other words, and that's exactly what they really are. It's just that we've been conditioned to think that there are many narcissistic, malignant narcissistic people around, and that there's people who have disorders. But in reality, that's camouflaging, or at least overlooking, the true reality that there are different species. They are an entirely different creation, and they're not human, but they mimic being human, which is why they're playing the love songs, and why the androgyne android next door, whoever, whatever it was singing the love songs through my window here at 2-3 in the morning this morning, really loud, in their own voice. But now today they're playing the music. Of course they're probably singing to the music, but what I'm saying is they did that the very next day after I foolishly and consciously, I knew this would probably happen. I actually played a whole lot of music videos really loud to override the mechanical work sounds that were coming from, you know, a door or two down, that were coming right into the house, and it was very negative sound. But I overdid it. I ended up getting like obsessed with playing the love songs, and I particularly played love songs, and I played them really loud. Like I turned the TV up so loud that it was actually not good, because normally, even if I turn it up loud for the mobile to pick it up, I don't have to turn it up to 50. I might turn it up to 25 or 30, but my normal hearing sound of listening to it might only be, say, you know, I can listen to it relatively low. You know, I don't like really loud music because I'm sensitized and sensitive to sound, and I'm not an android. When I don't mean to emphasize that in a funny way, but whichever way you look at it, the artificial beings like everything loud, they like everything emphasized. But I turned the music up really loud, playing these, which I knew that all the neighbours around would be able to hear it, even though it would have been overriding the mechanical sound. It was so loud, which would be very difficult to do, because the mechanical sound was extremely destructive, it was like a jackhammer type thing going off, you know, and it came into the house. It wasn't a jackhammer, because they use all different mechanical sounds, but very destructive, disturbing, unpleasant, you know, like where it agitates you and makes you feel like a nervous wreck, and you can't think, you can't concentrate, you know, puts you out of your mind. In fact, that's the purpose of all these sounds, is to drive you out of your mind, to drive you out of your normal, sane, calm state. Basically, that's what it is. They know that you already have some problems, because all human beings are conditioned from the day they're born to have some mental conflicts, because, you know, as we're told, you're traumatized in various ways. Even if you are just traumatized, as many are, in some respects, even the biggest trauma is just being totally denied basically a normal, affectionate relationship with your parents, etc., and to not have close friends, and then to not socialise properly, all this sort of thing. Well, that creates that, you see, to where you can't socialise properly, and then you're a walking target for the malignant narcissistic android beings, which need to feed off human life and human energy, and they can find a walking target in a traumatised human being, a traumatised true human being. Whereas if you were a true normal human being, not traumatised, you wouldn't fall for their game, shall we say? No, you wouldn't. You would recognise that they were playing you and loving you and traumatising you, loving you and traumatising. In other words, they were setting up what they call the Stockholm Syndrome, which is the most lethal form of love that a human being can experience. And it is lethal because, like in the movie Night Porter, trauma is mistaken, a trauma bond is mistaken for true love, the highest form of true love, and in reality it's not love at all. It's just bonding through the programmed game of giving love in trauma situations to where the person idolizes and worships and falls for the person that is really traumatizing them, or the controller. And these people are all about control, so they don't feel or experience love. They merely use love as a game against a traumatized human being to play them for their destruction. That's the sad story of it. And if you are a real human being, more than likely you will be a trauma victim, shall we say, because you are a victim in the sense that it is a deliberate set-up program around you, and it is deliberately designed to create a very negative mindset in you, so that you're no longer a real normal human being, so you can't function properly. And then they can imitate you and become the real human being, because that's their name of the game, because it's all about takeover. It's about artificial intelligence taking over humanity by controlling the scenario, controlling the narrative, as they say, at a worldwide level and at the human being's local, real level, and at the internet control level. You have only androids on the internet, whether they be your demigod music singers, your demigod music actors, past, present and future. And I think that my mobile is not filming these pictures clearly, because it looks all white on the screen. But either way, my point being that after I played the excessively loud love songs, maybe for about an hour, today I've got the androids around playing, as you can see, the love songs really loud, and singing at 3 o'clock in the morning next door, the love songs, because that's like, I don't know what the purpose of that is. It's to show that they're a real human being, and they're playing the love songs because I particularly played love songs at that particular time. And also it could be trying to draw me into believing that they are the real deal, or more than likely just projecting out that they're the same as a real human, because they weren't doing that before. But also I heard music coming from that same house a week ago, and it was totally different music. Like, it was actually quite aggressive, a different style of music. So what I'm saying is, these beings don't even play what they like. If they see a human being getting attention by playing or doing anything at all. Basically, they want to imitate their mimics, as I was told. They're basically mimicking life because they're artificial life. And that's how they take over in this end time end game. And basically they've defeated me again because I haven't been able to show the loud noise outside. I don't think the mobile picked up the love songs being played really loud, because if you can hear someone else's music inside your house, that's deliberate. Just as if you can hear mechanical work noise inside your house, that is either inconsiderate or deliberate. And when it goes on day after day, you know that it's deliberate. But either way, also I have loud talking coming in here. As you can hear, even outside we have loud talking. See, look, I can hear it inside my house, people talking.
I don't think it includes some surgeries, but not like major ones, you know what I mean?
See how basically you have like people not only talking loud, but they're also trying to always make you feel ill, because I don't know whether you noticed, but like the human phenomenon that has taken place, if you are what they call a targeted human being, that means you are a human being that has unstable emotions or is very human in some way. And they target these people. Of course, these I would probably have to acknowledge, even though I don't feel it myself, that these particular human beings are from a particular bloodline, and the androids will tell you this themselves. Now, what bloodline this is, they will pretend to be those of the bloodline. They will pretend to be what we call chosen ones, real ones, or ones that are connected to proper creative God. In other words, just a real human being, because essentially, it's very hard for me to explain this, but essentially, you are dealing with, like I say, different species. One is a mimicking species that controls humanity by surrounding it and suppressing it, covertly, secretively. In other words, they slowly destroy your humanity while they take on your characteristics. That's why they surround you, not just to suppress you with their sight and sound staged takeover or annoying displays, because they're always taking over your sight and sound. They're always putting their ideas onto you while they are mimicking your better qualities. Like if they see you feed the bird or turn the water bowl on like I do when I go through the park, they will copy that, but they will surround and set up noise so that it's disturbing for you to do it. Or they will deliberately take the bowls away like they've done when I leave the water running when it's 100 degrees, because the bowl's empty for the dogs and the birds and things. Now, I just do this because I think, oh, I'm really exhausted, I'm dehydrated, the dogs and the birds that are in the park, they rely on the bowl, but because it's so hot, they'll drink it, and then unless another human turns and fills it up, and the androids won't do that unless they see you do it. They only copy. They don't care about life, really. They only have to be seen to care about life. But either way, like my point being also with the loud talking around, talking about illness, talking about death, talking about disease, talking about injuries. Everywhere I go, I'm surrounded by negative images of the androids, where they're always with the mobile walkers, with the carts, with the walking sticks, limping, always old and sick often, but even the young ones always angry, and they only act happy or pleasant if you're really down, to make you feel worse. Because like if you're lonely and you're isolated and you're feeling depressed, and they walk past you holding hands, laughing and joking, when it's all acting, don't forget it's not real. They're not married to the person, they don't have any love for the person, it's all acting. They don't feel anything for it, but they elicit attention by that, because they're actors, they're attention energy sucking vampires. They say the word vampire because it means they take that attention as energy for them. It gives them life, just as the vampire takes the human blood. And it is the human blood because it is the human bloodline's life that they're taking it from, because a real human will come from the real human bloodline, and that will be from specific beings that have been in Earth and come here to start up the human bloodline again, because the androids control the Earth. So occasionally you will have human beings that will come into Earth to try to multiply again. In other words, procreate, create naturally, so that they can create a normal, natural, spiritual human being again. But then the androids will multiply their numbers, and they will always surround. They will pinpoint where the real human beings are. They will track them down. Most of the time, they don't have to even track them down. It just appears that way to me at my latest time in life, when they've come out in the open with their patrol control force around me, that they've finally tracked me down at 60 odd. You know what I'm saying? But in reality, they already were targeting you from birth, as many other targeted real human beings have said. Because, you know, you realise this only when eventually you look back over your life and say, why have I always been interacting only with psychopathic type human beings? It's only when you realise that, and that was my realisation 10 years ago, or actually a little bit less than that. Maybe say my full awareness of that probably came like 8. And then and the minute I realised that, and the minute they'd isolated me and created a total control matrix of these androids around me in the entire suburb, basically then they came down on me and out in the open, you know, in their patrol control force. In other words, to where they made it known to me that every vehicle had an android driving behind the wheel, by making their aggressive anti-life sounds at me. They staged impossibly elaborate, continual, large amounts of staged mechanical setups everywhere I went in the suburb. Anywhere where if I decided to sit down anywhere even for 2 seconds, automatically the Inner West Android Council, which is largely artificially intelligent army operatives in civilian community council uniforms. In other words, they're really army operatives, which are of course army operatives or army officers, army, those that serve the army or the military are basically all mind controlled, in the sense that they have to obey orders, instructions without question, and they do. That's the nature of being in an army, as anyone knows. There's no secret about that. It's just that the secret is that the army is on the streets of the city of Sydney, everywhere and anywhere a human being will be. because they are essentially an android army that works to and needs to work to control a human being, to get its energy, and it always has to be either total subservience, which means total adoration, total acknowledgement of them being God, or their God being God, which is the same thing because it's the mind of that God in these beings, just as human beings should have the mind of their creator God in them. It's just that because we're traumatised and living in this earth matrix where it's largely populated by anti-humans and anti-life and android beings, basically you get very disconnected from what your true person is and what you really, where you come from, and that you're really a real human being, and that there are different types of human beings. And the difference is very, very, very great in the sense that one is consciously working against the other and consciously trying to destroy the other whilst taking on the other's position as the end-time deception. I did not explain that properly. And before I finish, I must finish here. I will, maybe I will, would it be all right if I just stop this video and maybe do it tomorrow or a bit later if I've got the energy? Because one thing, they've turned off all the sounds so that I can't show the intrusive sounds that are always coming into this particular place where I live. And, you know, which is also the case, because don't forget, they're not only just watching and surveilling you 24/7 to where they know, but they can see everything I can do in the house. So they have the technology to see me as I am inside the house. Now, whether that is through like candid camera, in other words, like where there are cameras set up in the light bulbs, which wouldn't surprise me because these particular light bulbs that are in this place, that particular light bulb has been there for the last 12 years and has never went out. And that when that was put in there by, you know, by the government, because this is a government-controlled house, notice how I'm also in a totally government-controlled house, which means that the Australian government controls my house. And the Australian government and the Inner West Council, naturally, of course, is employed by the Australian government, because the government means any power that rules any country. That's the leaders that you elect to rule your country. And of course, as we know, you probably only, you have the choice between usually the same beings, because they're serving the Lucifer's matrix, they're serving the God of Earth. That's more than likely what the situation is, even though in the past I would have probably thought that there were differences in that, but now I realise that it's just all one Earth mind control. It's just one Earth human mind control matrix by the God of Earth, the God entity, which is essentially the original androgyne android, the elite androgyne android that some people have called the being of light, that camouflaged or was shown later to have the iniquity of darkness. And that, of course, was the being of light known as Lucifer, that became the being of dark to when it changed its name to Satan, because this being will change its names, its images, and anything to control the earth, to keep being God of Earth. Just as the demigods often change their images. And you have a million different demigods on the internet, in your movie industry, on the world stage, your music demigods. They all have different images, different varieties of songs, promote different ideas that a human being can relate to, but it's all still about eliciting your admiration and your control and your belief in them. And usually the music will usually be about what they call subliminally conditioning you in some way that is probably anti-human and anti-life and not going to work for you. But I'm going to finish here, and I might, I'll let the artificially controlled, the artificially mind-controlled cloned beings around me. That's the best way I can describe it. There could be many other technical or scientific aspects of this that I do not understand or know, because I can only speak on what I see. And we have been told that you will know them by their fruits. This is a religious statement. That means you will know them by their actions. That's right. Not by what they say, but by how they act. They may smile in your face and say hello, but then when they are promoting negative sound around you and they're stalking and patrolling you in an aggressive, intrusive, controlling, confining manner, to where you can't look or see your own reality anymore. And there is no reality that's your own anymore. All you see are their bright lights of their vehicles flashing in your eyes. All you hear is their negative, destructive sounds. All you hear is their angry vehicles going past you. All you see is distressive, depressive faces on most of the human beings that are stalking and patrolling you. Either that or making you envious and resentful when they stage their lovey-dovey, holding hands, fake love affairs in front of you to make you feel more isolated, less human, and certainly not in the higher vibration of what we call a love vibration. No, you're so far from that it's not even remotely touchable. You're in their vibration. You're feeling angry, frustrated, depressed, paranoid, and victimized, as though you're less and as though you mean nothing. You don't have your own existence anymore. They're controlling. If you have 100,000 stalkers around you when you go outside on the streets, in a continual flow of continual what we call intimidation, and basically just not giving you your privacy or any peace from them. You're never allowed to be even on your own in your own depressive state, because most human beings, I know myself, even if I'm left in total silence and total peace and I'm totally depressed and feeling like there's nothing and no one, at least I have my own thoughts. I might be able to get back to some clarity of thoughts and figure out why I'm feeling that way, but they won't give you that because they know that a human being does have some rational mind, whereas they don't. They're even the God of this world has, that's what the iniquity was, I think, a fragmented, malignant, narcissistic, paranoid, psychopathic, controlling. Well, basically, that's, I think what happens is that those elements come into play because it's a technical being, essentially, and because it's not fully human. And it's the same with human beings. When they combine with technology too much, you lose your humanity. You become a lot more technical. In the case of psychopaths or narcissistically malignant, controlling, paranoid, artificial beings, this wouldn't matter whether they use a mobile or a television or a computer anyway, because they're already psychopathic. They could be in the most natural, high vibrational, normal, natural reality Earth, and they would still be destructive to life, or at least they would not relate to life. the best scenarios where you could get them to cohabit without being destructive to life, even if they don't relate to it. But this just doesn't seem to happen for some reason. I don't understand why, because often sometimes it will even be in their great benefit to combine with human beings. But often their resentment and their contempt, which is, I think, programmed into them by Lucifer, the god of earth, that they override even material gains, even a more better existence for themselves. In other words, they are, as I've said before, like kamikaze pilots. They will destroy themselves and their own aeroplane if they can take down you and your plane. And that's a very tragic situation for humanity, and of course for them, but they're the instigators of it. That's how they are, I guess, because if they do that, whereas if they resisted doing that, you could probably say you could cohabitate with them. But either way, there is no choice for humanity, because I have to cohabitate with them, and if you're a human being, or even a remotely human being, you will have to cohabitate with them, because they will outnumber you in vast numbers. They will always seek out a human being because they need the energy and the information from them in order to mimic and imitate being a human being, because they don't understand the higher vibrations. If you don't feel any connection to life in any way, naturally you would have to study that life to understand it, and then if you need to copy and mimic it in order for your own survival, a bit like in the animal kingdom we have examples, I'm told, where you have animals camouflaging themselves to be the same as their prey, and that's exactly what they do. Human beings are their prey, really, but they have to camouflage being a friend and being the same kind as you in order to get what they need and want out of you. And I might just, I was going to play this song, and I should be on a roll, but I'm actually so exhausted here, I'll have to finish up and do it later. And I will finish up with some old photos just for my own record of things. Because although it's all going down and I'm going down too, basically I have to hang on even to false memories. I have to hang on to any form of humanity. Don't forget the androids. Most androids think they are human. It's only when they encounter a real human being that it mentally disturbs them, I think. That they become, at some level, I think they're like, is that other person more real than them? Because don't forget, they know that although they think they're human, they know that they are only pretending to be loving, shall we say. They know they don't really experience it. Some of the more primitive or advanced, depending on how you want to look at it, are actually programmed with memories and do actually think that when they're obsessively trying to pursue and control an object of their desire to control, because that being has life and light in them, and so therefore they need that being to imitate and to get the energy from them, or the admiration, the idolization. That's where they want to convince a human being to love them, love their false image of being a real human being. They will study you and be your ideal lover. Just like when I watch a movie, I relate to the movie actors and think, oh, aren't they, the greatest love story? Because they have deliberately staged and written that script to make me think that they are the perfect love story. And I will relate to those actors when I'm watching them on the screen. I will believe that they are really human, and that I, have missed out on that love story. That sort of thing. It's like that. And that's how it goes. That's the reality. And I could pick any movie, any music video, and I can always pinpoint how the demigods, that means the actors, the music idols, anyone who's anyone who elicits any human audience, whether it be a large audience or even a smaller audience, because don't forget, there are only a limited number of real human beings, and particularly those that are of pure bloodline. Even low, they will not be pure. So it's like generations means that you will be conditioned and your blood will be contaminated and contaminated by the matrix. So it'd be like you really are a creation of God if you want to look at it from a spiritual point of view, but even from a physical, technical, hereditary angle, basically your ancestors may or may not be anything like your ancestors, because you will be in a different environment. You could come from two of the greatest lovers as ancestors, but you could actually have almost an aversion to a love affair, shall we say, because of your conditioning, because of your environment, the way that you've developed, and the environment that is deliberately set up by Lucifer's matrix around you. Because there's very little coincidence. Lucifer uses its android beings, which need to control a human being and need the information about being human in order to survive, to imitate being a perfect human, but also to imitate being the most perfect human. So you don't have to be a perfect human, but you have to have some perfection, but also humanity, because human beings are very flawed, as we realise, because human beings are always trying to find out. They're always trying to go back and find out where they did come from, and most of us never do. But we're always lost and always looking, because we're not told or shown the real truth. The information isn't given to us. Instead, our information is stolen from us and used by the androids, used by Lucifer and its matrix to benefit them, to keep control, so that they remain God of earth. And its relatives and disciples also remain God of earth. And they are anyone that's not just on the world stage, but anyone that gets human attention in any way. And the only reason I mentioned the mimicking, copying beings around with the music, see, the music is playing now through the door again, loud. Like, if you take music out, like onto the street, instead of playing it inside your place, you're obviously doing it for the entertainment of people around, whether they want it or not. You're not just playing it for your own self. And if you turn it up really loud, see, I was conscious that I was deliberately disturbing the neighbours around when I played those love songs a few days ago. But I did do it initially to block out the mechanical sounds that were coming into the house, which is what I will always have to do when the mechanical sounds come in. And I've been doing this for years now, every day. But usually I don't turn it up unless I have to where, the whole neighbourhood can hear it, type of thing. And actually it nearly breaks the television when I do that too, so I don't like to do it. But sometimes you're also angry and wanting to show your humanity. but you're showing your humanity, you're only giving it to androids. They see it, they pick up on, and they run with it for their advantage. They're not going to be pushed off by the love vibration. It isn't compatible with them, and it is the opposite energy to that which they actually want to get, unless you acknowledge them as God. In other words, unless, like the demigods, you worship them, you idolize them, you relate to them, and you believe in their false persona, their false image as being a real human being. Unless you 100% believe that and idolize them, just as Lucifer prefers to be idolized as God, but because Lucifer knows that it probably won't be idolized by real humans and won't be acknowledged as God, then they put and set up the control matrix, which is about either deception or total control. But usually it's both, because the deception will always be part of the control. So often the truth will be used and will really be a lie. So they will use human things that you relate to convince you to be part of their control system. Just like if you're using technology for something good, when technology is really a control system, because the technology itself going through the air is about mind control. The technology itself is in opposition to nature, but if you think you're using your mobile for information or even to do something that is positive, you see how that is part of, I think they call that coercive secret control. But where you think you're doing something good, and you think you're part of something good, and you think you're part of the truth, and you think you're receiving the truth, but it's still part of the control system. The truth, because human beings are now realising things, and because it's the end time, and because there's a lot more information out there, the truth itself will be part of the deception, just as false prophets and false preachers will be eliciting your attention and your respect and your belief in them in the spiritual religious elements. In other words, you may be told the truth in your church, even though the preacher will probably be a false prophet. So that is a very clever, deceptive, cunning, very intelligent end-time game that Lucifer's matrix and its disciples, its pretend false human beings, are waging against the mind of myself and anyone else that is remotely human. I mean, that's the reality, but nothing you can do about it, because it's a numbers game. They always outnumber the humans. Like I say, the humans at some point are always sent a being that is meant to start up the human bloodline again. But usually that will take a long time, and usually conditions will be sent up to where the bloodline will either be contaminated, like myself, and disturbed and distressed and depressed, or it will be completely stopped. And eventually they will make more androids, artificially conceived androgyne beings will predominate, all artificial conception, artificial insemination of particular types of genes, and where they can make the clone type android beings. I don't understand how all this works. I only use these examples because I know they have these processes and these procedures in practice right now. I don't keep up with enough of it. I should get more information at a technical, scientific, and medical level so that it's more believable what I say. But you may well know these things more yourself, and you might just think about that, why these things are happening, and why, if you do know all about these things, which I don't, you might just want to think about why there is very little normal, natural, male-female conception taking place anymore. And if you think it actually is, you want to also really look into the information and really say, do I really know these two, man and woman, that say they produced a normal, natural child? And also, will they not be psychopaths that conditioned that child to becoming a psychopath too? But either way, more than likely, they will say that they have made love. They have made spiritual love and conceived and created a normal, natural, spiritual life child. But that will not be the case, because you will not know that. That will just be what they tell you with the words, which the words are lies. Just because someone tells me they did something, just because someone tells me they're in love, just because someone tells me they're a real natural man and woman and that they interact together in a loving manner, doesn't make it true. It's much more likely that they are just actors. And those that serve Lucifer, the god of earth, automatically believe in the duality androgyne, android, artificial being. That's not only just what their belief for the future is, just as they also think that that the way they want the earth to be is they control the human mind as best they can to try to get the reality they want. If they have to use technology or deception or even the truth to get that, they do that. They play it as the human being operates, and they endeavour to control particularly those human beings that are more aware of this or become aware of it, like I did, because obviously I was in the dark all my life. Even though I knew I was depressed, I thought the depression was caused by my own negative mindset. I didn't even consciously realise that I had been environmentally programmed by it. And even when I did realise it, my emotions and my conceptions that I'd been conditioned to from very early on, basically you can't get past that. And they're actually telling you this now, as they've been telling you for a long time, that once you get past a certain number of years, your conditioning becomes very stabilized and very hard to break. You really have to shatter your mind almost and face things that are very difficult to see or to understand and also to accept in order to break free of the false conceptions. And when they're ingrained into you, and particularly if they're like, say, something that is like physical and in your brain, you may actually not be able to do that. There are some things about myself that I think that I may not actually be able to override, even though I know that for my survival it's imperative. But the fact that I've got to 60 and am still got afflictions, even though I'm in full awareness of the reality around me. Well, not full awareness, but more or less awareness of the situation. I don't understand the technicalities of how everything is used against me, but I certainly